Hello everybody, how are you doing? Welcome back to Man City Unplugged, your very own Man City fan channel. I'm still buzzing over that derby win. It's still, making me so much energetic. I'm still enthusiastic about it, thinking what happened yesterday. Still want to rewatch, rewind the highlights of it. It just feels that it happened just 5 minutes ago. The derby win is just, it sort of got all of us fans, not just me, got all of us fans into so much of an energy kind of a mindset. I mean the I was just thinking a bit more about it, about what happened in the derby match. I think I know people would disagree with it, especially United fans, especially fans of other footballing clubs and our rivals. But it was more than a football match for me. It was almost a statement made by Pep Guardiola. It was a statement made by our fans. The way they were buzzing in that stadium, it was a statement that there is a power shift happening in the city of Manchester. Okay, the 2011-12 6-1 drubbing was a signal, about things to come. Still, Alex Ferguson was the man in charge. Still, it was like United were the reigning champions. They won the before season. They'll go on to win the next season as well after the 2011-12 season. So it was an announcement that City are we are beginning to challenge United. But yesterday's win was like we have arrived on the scene. The baton has changed hands. The power has already shifted in the city of Manchester. Can no longer call that Manchester is red. Oh, we have the history and all. It was apparently clear the way in which we rub the noses with the ground with uh, United. It wasn't just a football match that was won. It was more than that. It was a mindset. It was a mindset that has been changed forever. It was a mindset of almost, it was a mindset that everybody was talking about. Oh, okay, City can win here and there, but United will always be the biggest club in Manchester. That is not the case now. That is not the case. Now they might still argue that we have a big fan base and all of that. We have the better local fan base. We have the better loyal fan base. There are better factors to argue in terms of that fan base argument as well. But the important thing is we are coming. We are coming. If Manchester United say that they have a bigger global fan base, much bigger fan base globally, we are coming. We are just not just knocking down on the door. We are bulldozing that door. Yesterday, the thing was United were 11 men. They were not a man down or something, and United didn't make any mistakes. Okay, you could argue tactically, but United didn't, to the visible eye, at least United didn't make any mistakes. There were no free goals given away. Like for example, United gave away against Brentford. De Gea missed kick. Nothing of that sort. Nothing of that sort. No mistake by any United player. The first goal especially sums everything up. The first goal, United players stood statuesque over there. They didn't know what to do. You can just freeze that first goal, and that really, that defines it, the era of dominance that is set to come. United players statues for the first goal, and Willis, Bernardo, Foden just pass and goal. When it almost seemed that United players were in awe, they were in admiration of the football that was being played around them. And when you do that to the opponent, that's it. You have just bamboozled him, you've just knocked him down. There can be no greater sense of disrespect, humiliation that you can give to the opponent than making them statuesque and making them admire your football, and that too in a derby game. In a derby game, Man United players for that first goal especially were just standing in there and admiring us what we were doing. In the past, if you see, City had lot worse sides, especially in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and United were absolutely at the top. And even then, City always gave a fight. Man City never, stood in admiration of the rival in a derby game, even when we were having some city teams, even when we were almost fighting relegation. No, 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 we never did that. So that one moment in itself, it defines an era for me. It defines an era that is set to come, an era of dominance from Manchester City that is set to come. Just clip that first goal and the passing before that first goal and just frame it. That's what I would do. Well, let us talk about a few things that happened in the match yesterday that I noticed in the match about City, especially Jack Grealish. Like you can see there, the first point, Jack Grealish. You know, after that Community Shield match, I honestly thought that Jack Grealish would never play. I mean, at least in the near future, he would not start as regularly for City. But one thing is, Grealish Mahrez partnership is still shit. It's still a snooze fest. We saw that against Aston Villa, right? It was one of the most boring halves of football I've seen. But Jack Grealish showed us yesterday, which, for example, if Grealish wasn't there, we could have been vulnerable on the counter like we were against Newcastle. So Grealish for me is for me that handbrake, that handbrake between playing very fast and controlling the tempo of the game. There were certain instances yesterday when Willis just drops into the midfield, for example, and he just he buys in a challenge and he gets some free kicks, or else he just allows your Haalands and your KDBs to just run forward while he's holding the ball. He just stems all of the momentum that United had. So Grealish for me was very very good. I mean, the talk can be about Haaland, Ford, and every player was special yesterday, but there were some performances which quite went under the radar, especially in terms of the media and stuff, and a bit in our fan base. So I just wanted to mention Grealish there quickly for the tremendous amount of work he had done to control the tempo of the game and not allow United a chance in the counter. Vinay is here. Hey Vinay, how are you doing? United fans really thought to beat City, understanding beating Arsenal and Liverpool Football Club, but I don't know, they can't match our quality. And since Haaland arrival, I'm only thinking of his goals. That was the bit, I found it funny before. I mean, in the lead up to the derby as well, when United fans were thinking, we defeated Liverpool on the counter, we defeated Arsenal on the counter, and we will now defeat City on the counter. The first thing is, I found it absolutely farcical that they have started to compare us with beating Arsenal. We and Arsenal are not on the same level. Arsenal might be top of the table, but you just look at the teams that they have defeated to get to the top of the table. Okay, Spurs, and that too, it was down to 10 men. But apart from that, Arsenal have just played the bottom sides who were struggling, and Liverpool are struggling as well. And the second thing that absolutely made me laugh is, I mean, not laugh, made me smile is, it's United fans were thinking as if Pep Guardiola would not have watched the clips of uh, United beating Arsenal on the counter and United beating Liverpool on the counter. He would have absolutely watched the clips of those matches and he would have planned according to that. So I didn't understand. There was no logic to it that United fans were thinking about absolutely beating City. If they were thinking about beating City, then I think they were also thinking about title hopes. I think they defeated Leicester. They defeated an Arsenal side on the counter. By the way, Arsenal played very well that day, and they defeated Liverpool, who were struggling, who didn't have any midfield as well, and and they were actually thinking that we can win the title this time. Ten Hag has arrived. Ten Hag has arrived, and in a month he will do things that Pep Guardiola took a year to do and all of that shit. I'm happy that they have been grounded and they have been grounded in the most humiliating way possible. JSK says, let's talk about how we concede the last two goals after 85th minute. And apparently, United fans are telling the goals of Haaland and the assist of Haaland don't count. And then it's we who have won the match. We have won the match in the second half. All of that. I mean, when as a fan of a team, when you have to get down to such drastic, illusionary things, you can just understand where your team is. Vinay says Grealish was making good runs, but defensively he needs to work on how to stop crosses. shoot and close down quickly. He needs to understand that at City you have to do both attack and defense. Exactly, Vinay, that Anthony goal, right? That Anthony goal actually brought to. I mean, I had shades of that Real Madrid thing. Even in that Real Madrid game when we lost in second leg, Grealish didn't close down Carvajal, I think, who crossed the ball. Then he did. Grealish didn't close down Carvajal easily. I mean, Carvajal well enough. He did the same thing to Anthony there. Everyone was backing off Grealish. It was actually a picture book repeat of that goal of what happened then against Real Madrid. So I think Grealish needs to work on his thing and his defensive thing. But the good thing is he has at least got his confidence back. Because just even before the international break, it must have been a huge torture for Grealish through the international break. Every morning getting up and reading in the media, reading on the internet about how shit Jack Grealish is, how he's not the same player at Aston Villa, how he should not have come to City, how he will be useless and he'll be thrown out next season. Kudos to the temperament of Jack Grealish for getting through all of those things and then coming out and putting up a performance like that in the derby. And I think, and also kudos to Pep for entrusting him with one of the most important and technical roles yesterday. Remember, we didn't have Rodri, so Grealish's role was very important in terms of, sometimes getting to the midfield, sometimes, making those making those good runs to drag players out of the position. So Grealish position was critical and kudos. I mean, Pep could have easily played Alvarez yesterday, and no one and no fan would have questioned him because Alvarez is more technical. He's in form than Grealish. He understands the system well. He doesn't lose the ball, but Pep took the risk of playing Jack Grealish, and I think the congratulations should be on both sides. Should be to Grealish and should be to Pep. Vinay says, bro, JSK Pep took off Ford and KDB and put in Cole, Palmer and Laporte. But I was fuming at Ederson. He was so casual and when I not only Ederson, for Martial's second goal, Fred hits it, Ederson parries it, and then the rebound and the deflection falls to Martial, and Martial scores, right? Even there, Laporte didn't track the run of Martial. Laporte was at fault for that goal, and you're right about Ederson, especially in the last 10 minutes, Ederson was like casually passing the ball. He brought on pressure, he was just playing out from the back in a very bad way, and that resulted in throw-ins for United, and they got their goals. But anyway, I would think it was a switch off from City. You take out four players, but then again, there's a little bit of a thing there. Pep also was not too happy about us conceding so many goals. If you actually watch his post-match press conference, I think one of the things we need to learn is what happened against Real Madrid, what happened in the past against, for example, a Leon or someone, that in the Champions League especially, we have good leads, and then when it gets to the 75th, 80 minute, we sometimes become casual, against Aston Villa as well, we had that 1-0 lead and then we became casual and Coutinho, I think he makes it 1-1 or Leon Bailey makes it 1-1. So I think that is an aspect we need to work on, but nothing too much. We switched off. Pep knows it's a bloody long October. It is a nightmarish October. We have a game every 2.5 days, I would say, if not 3 days. So Pep, that's why Pep had made so many substitutions, because when was the last time you saw Pep make five substitutions? But you're right, when Ederson was casual there, Laporte also was a bit casual, didn't track the Martial run. JSK says, but UCL we need Ortega, Ederson won't work out. Ortega thing is interesting actually. We all wanted Ortega to start, but I'm sorry, not start Ortega to play in the Champions League, but maybe I think Pep wants Ortega to play more in the Carabao Cup, FA Cup, for example, and then prove it to him that he can challenge Ederson there. So, and right now, I don't think there's a basis for removing Ederson as well, right? Because he's basically doing things well. Shot stopping also seems to have improved this season. His distribution is always good, and also that understanding with the centre backs, For example, yesterday you saw there was a ball in behind. Akanji was running onto it, as was Jadon Sancho, and then Ederson quickly came and mopped it out. I think that understanding is something that allows your defenders to play 1, 2, 3 yards higher up the pitch. It is that understanding that allows your defenders to, be more aggressive in the approach. So I think Pep will I think it will take a drastic drop off from Ederson to actually give Ortega the thumbs up over Ederson. I don't see it actually happening right now. Ederson, Ortega over Ederson. Vinay says good that Pep also played him in midfield, and the way he's dancing in the middle looked silky. Grealish in the midfield is almost like you give you take away all of those toys from a small kid and then you give it to him. He feels so happy. That's how Jack Grealish is. It almost seems that Jack Grealish, when he's playing on the wing, he's playing in a position which he's not quite sure of. It almost seems like he's still learning the position. But in the midfield, it seems like the position is the back of his hand. He knows every blade of grass in that midfield position. He loves running through the midfield. But we saw yesterday's match also gave us a glimpse of the problems that are at City in terms of selection. Gundogan had an exceptional game yesterday. You didn't even feel, if you didn't see the team sheet, if you're a non-City fan and you didn't see the team sheet, you would not think that City are playing without a recognized CDM. Gundogan was so good, he was just controlling the tempo of the game. He was holding the game from the start of its net. See, Gundogan's absolutely flying. Bernardo Silva is the best box-to-box midfielder in the world. De Bruyne, he's out of this world, he's out of this universe, is so good. Where is the space for Jack Grealish to play in the middle? See, that is the big dilemma which Pep needs to answer now. Do you disrupt that rhythm of Bernardo, Gundogan, and De Bruyne in the midfield, and do you put Jack Grealish in, or do you just play Jack Grealish on the wings? Now the question is, if you are playing Jack Grealish on the wings, what happens to Julian Alvarez? By the way, guys, I would be absolutely unhappy if Julian Alvarez doesn't start against Copenhagen in the midweek game, because he deserves minutes. Alvarez surely deserves minutes. Vinay says Pep still doesn't trust Ortega. Exactly, and also there's no basis as well, like we spoke about, to remove Ederson. Ederson's been actually good. Pep will actually beat him with a stick for his casual nature and stuff. Pep looked upset in the interview. He really looked upset. Ederson would have got a good beating from Pep. Vinay says, any update on Calvin Phillips? Calvin Phillips, Pep was telling it's difficult for him to return before December. So I think before the season starts. So I don't expect Calvin Phillips to be back. But the good news is Rodri seems had just suffered a knock, so Rodri will be back. And we bloody need Rodri back as well. Gundogan cannot play every 3 days. We do not have any options in that midfield. Well, we do have our boss Akanji. Probably Akanji can play in the midfield. The way Akanji is playing, I think he can play in any position. His confidence on the ball, his pace. I just think Akanji is another versatile gem that Pep has, unearthed. JSK says if Silva leaves next year, Grealish can fill up his spot. Initially, Grealish was bought to replace Silva. Exactly, JSK. Grealish can do that, but Grealish needs to, he needs to develop that defensive discipline, I think, because yesterday you saw Bernardo Silva. He was almost being, surrounded by 2, 3 players, right? And he still didn't give the ball away, and they were not even able to foul him. The second bit is important there. When Grealish was in the midfield, they were able to foul him. This tells me that Grealish is good in the midfield, is very good in the midfield, but very good is not enough to play for Manchester City in the midfield. To play for the City team in the midfield, you almost have to be at that absolutely world class. You have to be more than world class level, which Bernardo Silva is, which almost an Ilkay Gundogan is. How many times do you see Ilkay Gundogan, do you see Bernardo Silva being fouled in that midfield area? No, no, no. It was the same with David Silva. They're much more faster in the brain, and Grealish needs to develop that, because if Grealish plays in the midfield and he is fouled often, then what happens is the game cannot flow. Then the opponents will know that, okay, he's foulable. They'll be able to cut down the tempo of the game, which can be an antidote to the way we play. What we want to do is we want that pass from, we take our time from passing from the defense to the midfield, but from the midfield through the attack, it's quick one touch passes, three, four passes, and then you go to goal. That's a speciality. So that is my one concern with Grealish. Defensive work, the positioning, I actually think Grealish will learn, but the thing that is harder to learn is, because Grealish has been so used to, getting fouled so often, getting free kicks. In City's midfield, you can't allow that to do because you need the game to flow, and that is something I actually think Grealish might find it difficult to adjust with. Vinay says we really need a new pacey right back. Walker declined faster than expected. It's every month now. If we want to at least reach UCL semi-final in January, we must go. It depends again. This is a very difficult question to answer, especially with with Kyle. The thing with Kyle Walker is, do I think he's declined? His pace has certainly gone down this season. The World Cup year, I think from the beginning of the season we were all united on one issue that we need reinforcement in those fullback areas, because you can't expect Walker and Cancelo to play every 3 days. So with Walker, the thing is, see, you have two options here. Maybe would you want Akanji to play there? But again, the thing is, Akanji he's been the best centre back in the league till now in this season. He's been so good. Akanji, aggressive with the ball, aggressive without the ball. His physicality is the start of this world. So, what are your options on the right back position? Rico Lewis is. I mean, would you develop Rico Lewis? But again, games are coming so thick and fast. It's not possible, I think. We actually need to go in January, but again, see, you can't be so sure going in January, because players will just return from the World Cup. You will not know their physical condition. It could be a risk. Going for a right back in January. So it's a difficult situation how Pep deals with Walker. But another thing is, maybe Joao Cancelo. Joao Cancelo could be the answer here. You play Joao Cancelo on the right, which you could just get more out of Joao Cancelo if you play him on the right, and then you play Sergio Gomez on the left, and you give more game time to Sergio Gomez. I think that could be the answer, because going in January is a risk, especially if, because see, again, this is the question. You go in January and you bring a good right back, right? But adjusting to playing in this Pep system in itself is a nightmarish thing, in terms of understanding the positions. And right back is one of the critical, fullbacks are the critical areas there. You could say the heartbeat of Pep Guardiola's system and the way it works. So, even if you go for a good right back, let us imagine in the World Cup you get a very good right back, a talented someone comes, an unknown this thing, but you get him in January. How do you how do you get him to play in this PAP system? He will need time, and by the time he adjusts, it will be October next season. Instead of that, go for a very good right back in June or July itself. I think that should be the way to go, because even if you bring in a right full back, it's almost useless because he would not know how to adjust to PAP system. Vinay says currently Reece James and Hakimi come to mind. Hakimi, for me, I don't think he has defensive nose. He's defensively just absolutely. He's not good enough defensively as of Hakimi. He just has pace. Maybe he has tactical intelligence a bit, I know, but he has pace and is attack minded. That's it. We need at least one player in that back line who is good enough defensively. We need one player who has that, who has the capacity to go into 1v1 duels with the Wilfried Zaha, with the top wingers. You see, yesterday there were diagonal balls being pinged, right? It was almost Lisandro Martinez to Anthony, and then it was the other way around, Dalot to Jadon Sancho. There were balls over Walker's head. Walker was 1v1 with Sancho until he was injured. So I think Walker's role is very important defensively, and I would consider a defensive fullback, because otherwise the back line would just become too much attacking, and we need someone to control the game defensively. I think Reece James would be a dream to have, and the thing with Reece James is he can adapt to Pep system very well, because almost with Thomas Tuchel, those tactical inputs, it's almost close, not exactly the same as Pep. And Reece James would be a dream. He's defensively very, very good. Just imagine the crosses that Reece James would give to Erling Haaland. That's just out of this world. If we get Reece James, then teams will not even want to come and play us. They would send a white handkerchief to us by post and save on the transportation and journey charges. Just imagine Reece James crossing, Kevin De Bruyne crossing, Joao Cancelo crossing from the other side. That's just a three-way. That's a triple impact attack. Teams would just not be able to live with it. Bernardo says no, it actually helps us. Dalot's yellow was the Bernardo says Dalot's yellow was the game-changing moment. Maybe Bernardo, but Dalot's yellow meant that he would not go too heavily on Jack Grealish, but you know it there wasn't even one goal where Grealish just stood Dalot up and he dribbled past him and Dalot couldn't do anything without the yellow card. There wasn't a moment, but Dalot's yellow, I would say it was a favorable moment in our in the match. But the thing that was game changing is how Jack Grealish drifted into the midfield, how Phil Foden drifted into the midfield, and what happened was, Christian Eriksen and McTominay were man marking Kevin De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva respectively, and both De Bruyne and Bernardo went outside sometimes, and Eriksen and McTominay didn't know. Dalot and Malaysia didn't know what to do. Do you stay with your man, or do you just stay in your position and mark and zonal mark the person who's coming there? It was just almost that United players were very close to just being dizzy and just falling down on the field. They absolutely didn't know what was happening there. We were constantly interchanging, and to add to all of that, Erling Haaland, if you notice, came into the midfield a lot of times. He was just dropping. There were times when I was surprised. Ederson played a long ball, and Phil Foden was running through, and Erling Haaland dropped back. There were moments where Kevin De Bruyne and Haaland were playing a 4-4-2. There were moments where it was 4-3-3 and Haaland was in the midfield. So people who said Erling Haaland is a one-trick pony, people who said that Erling Haaland does not have the technical attributes to play in the Pep system, yesterday's match is an eye-opener to everyone. The guy is also racking up the assists. Did you see the cross he gave to Phil Foden for a second goal? I think for Foden's second goal, the curl on it was just absolute dream. Haaland, the assist maker, is not behind. Vinay says United fans were boasting about Dalo and Malaysia duo, but they got destroyed by Grealish and Foden. Vinay, destroyed is a very light word to use. So what happened to Dalo and Malaysia? It was an open ground massacre. They were just being stripped apart, naked, and uh, taken to the showers by Grealish and Foden. I mean, I can't describe what Grealish and Foden did to Malaysia and Dalot. They were just torn apart. This thing. It's very seldom. It's very rare that as a fullback, your opposite winger leaves scars on you, leaves scars that have the potential to haunt you throughout your season, throughout your career, maybe. And yesterday, Grealish and Foden did that to Malaysia and Dalo. Especially with Malaysia, United fans were thinking that we have found out, we have found one of the best left backs in Europe, and he's just going to dominate everyone. And Pep just Foden didn't even have to do any skill with Malaysia. Pep just dominated Malaysia with positioning of Foden. Foden just went and stood, between that position of a traditional winger and a midfielder, and Malaysia didn't know what to do. One moment and Malaysia was out of his depth. Malaysia was like, he was looking at the gaffer, he was looking at Ten Hag, and he was thinking, what do I do now? The position is occupying. Yesterday, who got destroyed the most? Eric Ten Hag got destroyed. They were thinking that Eric Ten Hag he'll easily school Pep Guardiola, and Eric Ten Hag got tactically, mentally, everything. And his players were physically destroyed. Eric, Eric, I mean, the biggest compliment that we can pay to City is, none of the United players did any mistake. Did you see any mistake or something? Maybe the marking for Haaland's goal was the thing. That too from a set piece. No mistake, no obvious mistake from any player, and still you lose 6-3. In fact, it should have been 8-9-3, 10-3 if Pep had really wanted to put that dagger through the heart of United. He would have just left all of the attackers on the field and it would have been 9-10-3 easily. It's just that there's no greater humiliation than just uh, telling your wounded opponent to get up. It's fine, and you have all of our sympathy. Let us go. There's no bigger humiliation than showing sympathy to an opponent, and United have been humiliated beyond words. Even any dictionary cannot give you words of how much United have been humiliated. JSK says, wait, Adama Traore, JSK says, how about getting someone from La Masia? No La Masia and all now. And it seems they were talking about Barcelona. There were also reports that, Barca bought Ferran Torres from us for 45 million pounds, right? It's been almost a year or so. And they have paid only 3 million pounds. 3 million pounds, and La Liga president day before yesterday was talking how the English Premier League clubs, how Man City is destroying the entire football, that they're just buying so many players. You bloody look at the state of the clubs in your own country, where they are not even able to fulfill basic financial obligations like paying salaries, and you're not even paying money to us. What, you paid 3 million pounds out of a 45? Just get lost, piss off Javier Tebas and piss off Barcelona. Vinay says, just forgot Josh Wilson as brand, but Cancelo can't play every match. Sergio Gomez, Vinay, Sergio Gomez was absolutely excellent, right? That's one of the things we have on the show as well. That Sergio Gomez was very good yesterday. There was one pass where he just gives it to De Bruyne and he just goes. His pace is good, and the one thing that impressed me about Sergio Gomez yesterday was his aggressiveness with the ball. He's just so aggressive in terms of give and go. One touch, you just go, give, and I'm off. You just find me there. It is so that um, it just filled my heart with so much of passion seeing that sort of a give and go thing. He still has to work on his positioning a bit defensively, especially. Sergio Gomez was, there were some moments when he misplaced his passes, some moments when he was caught high up the pitch. But in fact, I would say that he has learned the position very, very quickly, Sergio Gomez. It's just a little bit, two, three tweaks and he's on. He's learned the system much more quickly than an Alexander Zinchenko as well. When Zinchenko left and when Jesus left, all of the Arsenal fans were telling us that they were taunting us. In fact, that you have let go of Zinchenko, who has won you the tackle on the final day. He was the game changer. You have let go of, Gabriel Jesus, and now you will struggle. And who have we replaced them with? Erling Haaland and Sergio Gomez. And we have in fact had a net profit in replacing both of them in terms of the transfer fees. So I'm actually surprised, I would say, with the way Sergio Gomez has fitted into this system. He has just fitted this system like a glove. Actually, he's so good. With Josh Wilson as brand, I think he'll actually play in the Carabao Cup. Josh Wilson as brand, but it's actually difficult for me seeing Josh Wilson as brand get more game time in the system, especially because of the way we play. But yesterday, it gave a bit of hope to Josh Wilson as brand. If you see, because Pep yesterday asked both Kyle Walker and Cancelo to stay back, right? They didn't venture forward at all. Maybe one, two instances, but they stayed back. Sancho and Anthony, they were just marking both of them. So I think if you play that system where you want your fullbacks to stay wide and not invert into the midfield, then maybe I think Wilson Esperant will get chances. But my bet is on Rico Lewis. Actually, I would not be surprised if Rico Lewis he is the successor in mind of in the mind of Pep Guardiola for Kyle Walker. Rico Lewis, I think Pep trusts Rico Lewis a lot. His ability on the ball, especially. So I would not be surprised if we don't go in for a fullback replacement and Rico Lewis is the one who takes over the baton from Kyle Walker. Maybe next season, but no one knows what will happen this season, especially after the World Cup. The shape players will return in, so it's the concern is true. Like when I pointed out, the concern is absolutely true regarding Kyle Walker and his fitness. But again, we'll have to think it could be a blessing in disguise as well in terms of Joao Cancelo getting more chances on the right hand side. If you look at it with a little bit of positivity, but you would actually want Kyle Walker to get out of that injury fast. Vinay says, guys, I'm confused with Haaland release clause. Some said Fabrizio concerned confirmed he doesn't have any release clause. Even I do not have any clarity of that matter, Vinay. I, I think some stories are being even sprung up by Real Madrid, who have been left you know, in a condition where they cannot even show their face that they have missed out on both Mbappe and Haaland, and now they're feeding it into the press, the stories of, release clause. Because when we signed Haaland, the story from the Spanish press was he has a 60 million release clause or something, and now the talk is he has 180 million release clause. There's no clarity about that release clause. We do not even know if that release clause is there or not. But I think we'll have to accept one fact here, that especially looking at what Alf-Inge Haaland is saying, that Haaland will not stay here forever. I want him to stay, but I don't think he'll stay here forever. Haaland for me comes across as someone who wants to prove himself in all of the top 5 leagues. I think that is his major goal. So I don't expect him to stay here maybe beyond 4 years, but it's reasonable to expect that Haaland will stay for 4 years at least, and maybe a year more. But I think he will go to La Liga at some point of time. He's been to the Bundesliga, and I think he'll also go to the Serie A at some point of time. And maybe the thing is, he will return back to Manchester City, just like, for example, I mean, not like how Ronaldo returned, but he will return back to Manchester City, and I think the icing on the cake will be for Haaland and also his father as well, who's an ex City player. I think Haaland will want to retire at Man City. He'll come back for a second spell at City, I think, and the second spell will not be like how Ronaldo is suffering. I'm really sure of that. The second, well, that is because the world class movement and the intelligence of Haaland would mean that he can even dictate matches even when his legs are gone. Michael Owen, Fernando Torres, what has happened to them? Their legs were gone and they were out. They weren't effective as strikers. Michael Owen's career ended at 22, 23 and stuff. But with Haaland, that's not going to be the case because of his physicality, because of his exceptional movement, because of his positioning intelligence more than anything else. He exactly knows he knows how to conserve energy in the game. He doesn't take too many touches. He gets into them positions. Is patient. So for me, I think Haaland will have a second spell at City, but I can see him leaving actually after 4 to 5 years. But I think the one who will retire at City is Julian Alvarez. I can see Julian Alvarez doing what a Sergio Aguero did. And by the way, Alvarez is also very, very damn good player. It's just that many people haven't seen flashes of him. His finishing can be compared to Haaland as that good. JSK says, if Fabrizio said, then we throw all other reports away, especially the Spanish media who made the claim. Vinay says, hope Gomez doesn't get lost in playing multiple positions. He was playing winger with Spain. I think Sergio Gomez also played in a two in the midfield yesterday, right? Especially towards the end. So I think Pep was in a way Pep was testing him for that midfield position as well. But Sergio Gomez is I actually think Sergio Gomez is capable of playing in that midfield position because through the youth ranks he's a midfielder and then he turned into a fullback under Vincent Kompany at Anderlecht. So I think Pep is looking forward to the worst case scenario, that what if Rodri takes a few more. Apparently, I think it's a little not, but maybe it could be a calf issue for Rodri. So if Rodri takes more time in getting back, Stones is injured as well. I think the option is for Sergio Gomez to play there, especially knowing that Ilkay Gundogan can't play every 3 days. So I mean, it could actually do two things. It could, I mean, especially under Pep, I don't agree with this that the change in position could confuse players, because especially under Pep, it actually has the opposite effect. I don't know why this is. Maybe it maybe could be because Pep relays inputs much better than other coaches, because with other coaches, if you play someone out of position, they generally don't tend to do that well. For example, Pogba is a clear example of what happened to him playing out of position. Alexis Sanchez is an example. But with Pep, Phil Foden played at left back, played in the midfield, played left wing. Now he's playing right wing. With Pep, I think whenever he plays players out of position, I think the players learn much more. They learn much more about the philosophy of Pep. They learn much more about their teammates, what to do when someone is in this position. And I also don't think there's a specific position for everyone. It's just interchanging. So I do think it's in certain jobs and in certain places, it's a mandatory requirement for everyone to do certain things, to have certain internships or to serve 1 or 2 years somewhere. I think it's the same with players in the Pep Guardiola system. It's almost a mandatory requirement in your first or second year to almost cover and play all of the positions, just to have a glimpse of what your teammate is going through when he's put under pressure in that position. Now Phil Foden knows what Kyle Walker is going through when he's isolated 1v1. Foden springs back because Foden played in that left back position early on in the first team for Pep. So I think the thing with Pep is he makes players realize how grateful they should be for their teammates helping out when they play in a certain position by playing them out of position. So I actually think that actually fills all of the players with gratitude towards their teammates, and that's why I think we combine together with each other. That could be that is the reason for our camaraderie, for our friendship, why we press together, why we help each other when there is danger. So I actually think that playing out of position could actually help a player develop much faster. Vinay says, talking in terms of defensive work rate. Uh, JSK says Josh Wilson S brand is on loan. That is interesting, JSK. Josh Wilson S brand is on loan. That is interesting. I have not heard it. I have not seen it mentioned anywhere, even in the City official thing. City official website, they generally at least give a clip or something when someone goes out on loan, and I do not know. Is it in the championship? This is surprising. This is an interesting piece of news. I do not know that Josh Wilson as brand is on loan. Which club? Yeah, JSK, exactly. Which club? Some third division team. Don't know their name. Okay, is it in the championship itself? I mean, in the English football itself. Um that's interesting. Josh Wilson as brand is on loan. Then that means that we are even more thin in terms of resources, right? In terms of defensive reinforcements, we are just a Cancelo injury away. God forbid it doesn't happen, but we are just a Cancelo injury away in terms of being down to bones on that left. Let us just assess the situation here. What happens if Cancelo is injured? Who have we got on the flanks? Sergio Gomez, and that's it. Sergio Gomez, and that's it. Sergio, Sergio, if Cancelo is injured, Walker is already injured. We have got Sergio Gomez, and maybe an Akanji can play there, guys. The injury this season, I don't know why, but the injury crisis always just looks like it is standing in front of you, ringing your doorbell and waiting in anticipation for you to open the door. We should be careful of managing Cancelo's time here. He has played every match of playing Portugal and also for City this season, Cancelo. So that is interesting, because I thought Wilson as brand is still there. I was a bit more confident that okay, we are in a position to maybe have one more injury, and still we could have people like Gomez and Josh Wilson as brand cover it. JSK says, sorry, it was Luka MBT, not JWE. Oh, that's actually nice, JSK, because for a moment I'm like thinking, I'm like lost in thoughts that, wow, Josh Wilson as brand is also out on lower end. What will happen to our. We are not far away from what has happened in that Real Madrid game when we were out of fullbacks and we don't even Fernandinho to cover now and we don't even have Calvin Phillips. Wow. But actually, it's a good ending to it. That knowing that Josh Wilson as friend is still there, still there with us. And finally, Ake partnership was. And I know that is the least mentioned thing in some fan forums I've seen. They've given City fan forums. They've given 6 and 6.5 to Manuel to Nathan Ake. I actually think that Manuel Akanji and Nathan Ake, they are carrying out Pep's philosophy of what a centre back means perfectly. I haven't seen this being carried out by your Aymeric Laporte, by your even John Stones, and also by your Ruben Diaz as well. Maybe Diaz did in his first season, but Pep always, I mean, in a perfect Pep world, Pep wants the centre backs to, go and attack the center line rather than hug the D box of the goalkeeper. And yesterday, Akanji and Ake against a counter-attacking team were attacking our center line. Their positioning was even 2-3 yards ahead of the center line as well. And you need to have courage. You need to have a certain kind of mentality to 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 do that, to have that positioning, especially knowing that Rashford is behind you, especially knowing that Anthony or Jadon Sancho could isolate your fullback 1v1 at any time and they might need cover. So just kudos to the courage more than anything else of Ake and Akanji being so aggressive. And for a moment, for people telling there is Laporte, there is Diaz there, and I mean it is funny that a lot of Man United fans yesterday were thinking that Diaz and Laporte are our major defenders, and we are going to miss them, and Ake and Akanji are just filling the gap up and all. But if you see from last February itself, Nathan Ake has been hands down a best defender. Nathan Ake, you remember Atletico Madrid match, right? It was a huge battle there, and Nathan Ake stood firm. Nathan Ake looked like he was not losing anything that night. And for Real Madrid, he was injured, I think, in the second leg. Or yes, he was injured for both the Real Madrid legs. He didn't play them at all, I think. So Ake was hands down. Whichever match he played, like Ake was hands down when last season a best defender. And to add to that, Akanji, the pace, the positioning, more than that, I know I've repeated it twice, but I'm gonna repeat it again that the the sense of the sense of persona which you get when you have a Rolls Royce defender. Company had that persona, Van Dijk had that persona, and Manuel Akanji is having that similar persona now. Where there was a period in Van Dijk's career with Liverpool, especially that 2018 to 2020, that season before he suffered that injury. No one could even win a 1v1 against Van Dijk in those 3 years from 18 to 20, 17 to 20. Van Dijk did not lose a single 1v1. Van Dijk was not, no striker or attacker completed a takedown on Van Dijk. And for me, Manuel Akanji is showing flashes of what a really fit Vincent Kompany towards the last years of his career would have given us. Akanji is almost showing that glimpses. It almost seems impossible for an attacker to win 1v1 duels against Akanji. It almost seems impossible that someone can complete a takedown against Akanji. It's just wonderful. JSK says, by the way, about Haaland leaving, he can change his mind. You never know. Silva and Aguero were the best. Yes, exactly. Haaland, the love which Haaland is getting from the fans, the coaching of Pep Guardiola, and even Haaland, in an interview, he was talking about how football logic. Guardiola is always thinking about which tactic should I implement. The learning which Erling Haaland is getting here, he could actually change his mind. But just looking at the mentality which of Erling Haaland, that he wants to prove, not prove, but he wants to be the absolute best, which means that inside himself is thinking, I have to, test myself out in all of the Europe's top five leagues. So with that, I actually have a feeling that maybe after 4 years or maybe 5 years, if City can convince him at the end of the contract, he will stay for 5 years and then maybe look for a stint in La Liga and Serie A. And what I'm confident about is Haaland will come back to City to finish his career. I'm sure of that. Now we all of us want that he never leaves. But even if he leaves, one thing I'm sure is he'll come back and complete his career at City. And we should not forget that Dortmund maybe molded him and put him on the world stage, but it is at City that he is being shaped to be in to be in the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, to go to that level. It is at City that his formative years of being an absolute legend are currently there. These are still, and it's scary to know that it's still the formative years of Haaland is just 22 and he'll get much, much more better. It's just that injuries and City are looking after the City have dedicated a special physio to him. They're looking after him extremely well and stuff. And by the way, another thing about Erling Haaland is, there are talks that, I mean, sources around City are telling that, Erling Haaland in his free time, he goes to the academy dressing room, he goes to the under 18s, he goes to the under 23s, and he goes into their dressing rooms and makes it a point to speak to players. He motivates them, he inspires them. There are people around City's academy talking about how much of an influence Haaland has already had on the academy players. So that is absolutely interesting. The humility of the man, the gratitude of the man, how grateful he is. He's not allowing it to get to his head. But I think this will be the difference between a Erling Haaland and between a Kylian Mbappe. Kylian Mbappe doesn't come across as this kind of a character like what Erling Haaland is, right? And he just suits the way City are, the personality, the persona of City perfectly. Erling Haaland, for just the kind of the person he is, and it is no surprise that even Pep Guardiola talks about it regularly in his press conferences about how good a person Erling Haaland is more than anything else, because you have this big superstars, 21, 22 coming in generally, and they think that the world is already at their feet and they develop a big ego, and then nothing works out for them. Footballing world has seen graves of such huge young talents coming through and then allowing that ego to get to their head and being destroyed for nothing. Whenever you think you're above the game, it's very, very difficult. I think that is what is happening with Mbappe right now. The ego is getting onto him more and more. And with Haaland, it's just the opposite. It's a student of the game. Every day, every minute, whenever he misses a chance, he analyzes what have I done wrong, not why the assist was not perfect. And when you have that mentality in any field, you can just conquer the world. Vinay says Ake playing long ball never seen, but happened versus United. Also, Akanji is new. Diaz in defense. I would go one step further, Vinay, and say Akanji could maybe. I mean, this is a very, very big call, but Akanji could maybe go one step further and replicate the footsteps of Vincent Kompany. And what a deal, I must say. City, Akanji, 27 years age, right? The perfect age, the age where you're not old at all and you're not too raw. You're almost in that perfect young age. At 27 is still too young for a defender. Akanji has seen a lot at this age. I think it's a perfect age as well that we've got Akanji in at 27. It's neither too late and neither too early. A perfect age to keep the defense together, a perfect age to exhibit your leadership skills, a perfect age to move on to the next level. Again, injuries are a problem with Akanji and we need to manage that out. But Nathan Ake has improved a lot in terms of his ball playing ability. Even I haven't seen him, last season as well, there were bits when we were cursing Ake as well that he just slows the play down. He's not aggressive enough. He's not a Pep Guardiola centre back. He's not a Pep Guardiola fullback as well when he played on the left and stuff. And right now you're seeing that Ake has just improved. I think he must have just worked with Pep. If Pep Guardiola can transform Jerome Boateng into one of the world's best all those years ago, Ake certainly has the talent, he has the leadership skills, everything, a little bit of chinks here and there. And Ake Akanji for me are on other planet, left footed, right footed as well. We have certainly found our centre back pairing, and there's no Achilles heel to the centre back pairing. They have pace as well, which means teams looking to play on the counter will also think twice. For a moment yesterday, I was thinking, does Sancho have more pace or does Akanji have more pace? Because Sancho had a head start and Akanji caught up to him. So you actually do not know what the pace of Manuel Akanji is. Kumar is here. He says, "Come on, City." JSK says, "Yeah, if he leaves City, I don't see him staying at any other club more than 3 years. No better it's Real, Barca, or PSG. I don't think he'll go into the French league. By the way, if I said top five leagues, maybe he'll drop that, and maybe it's the top four leagues. I won't consider the French league. Huh? What is there to prove in the French league, right? Instead of going to the French league, you bloody go to the English first division or go to the championship. You'll get much more competitive matches over there. At least players will, be more physical, and Haaland will get a challenge. What is there to compete in France at PSG, for example? I also think that he will go to one of the Milan clubs or the Serie A or Juventus. I think whenever, I mean, looking at the state in which those clubs are then, but I think I see a pathway for him returning to City. Vinay says max 3 to 4 years at City. Yes, exactly. I mean, and I think instead of thinking about when he will leave, I think let us enjoy these 3 4 years. It will just be such a good roller coaster ride in this 3 4 years that Haaland is here. I mean, the memorable nights he will give us and stuff. It will just be so good. Vinay says Portuguese teams are good versus French, and I mean, the Portugal team is also the Portugal national team is also very good, right? And I mean, Portuguese teams. I mean, if you compare the club teams, I mean, honestly, PSG as well. In terms of French club team, PSG has been not at all good this season. If you watch them in the UCL, for example, or even in one of their matches, if you're too bored, you can watch them, and they are just bang average. Neymar is playing good. Messi is Messi. Kylian Mbappe is a selfish brat, and that's it. Others are just bang average. Maybe variety, you can say. PSG is just overhyped. I think they don't have a structure, and their team is also not that good this season. JSK says we can win two quads with him in this 4 years. Hope so, JSK. But the one thing with these quadruple things is, see, it can just go either way, especially in the cup competitions, Premier League, or last minute penalty that the opposition team gets. And there are certain, especially in the cup competitions, you can play the 90 minutes well, and still you could end up being dumped out. We have seen firsthand against Madrid. So I know that if Haaland was there, we would have uh, got over the line easily. But generally in cup matches, I think there are variables you can't control. Injuries could play a big part. I hope Haaland. I mean, I can't expect Haaland to play every match in the season, and he'll get rest in the cup matches. So I think there is a dynamic there. Quadruple, you never know. Liverpool had the best chance last season and they blew it. And also another thing for going for the quadruple is you have to be careful, because just look at what has happened to Liverpool. They put all their energy last season, and this season they look knackered, they look bare, they look without energy. For example, Salah, it looks as if he's just tired. There's no interest to score goals as well. So I think you'll have to be careful one season to other, that at the end of a season you don't get your players emotionally and mentally drained out, because again, football is a marathon. It's not that one season everything's over. It doesn't happen like that. Even if you win everything one season, next season you still have to. It's a fresh season, and you have to go their game after match, season after season. So I think with the quadruple, the risk is you could emotionally get drained out as well if you don't achieve the title. But if you achieve it, then it's something else. So it'll be interesting to see how Pep balances it out. This month, this 2 weeks will provide you a good glimpse of how Pep wants to rotate the team, basically with the Carabao Cup, with with the Premier League matches coming thick and fast and stuff. This, especially even this week, will provide a glimpse. The team he plays against Copenhagen, Haaland would be licking his lips for another hat trick. If Pep plays him against Copenhagen, but I think Pep will rest Haaland and he'll play Julian Alvarez there. Vinay says only want Premier League and UCL. Those small cup games mean injury. But Vinay, at least once we should win a quadruple and shut those United brats off permanently. Bragging about an achievement that, oh, treble, we are the only ones who have a treble, and all of that shit which they have done in 1999 or something. So I think I want us to win the quadruple at least once, and other thing is I want us to be invincible also once, just to shut up their those Arsenal marks once and for all. They think that being invincible is absolutely a very great achievement and stuff. And when they were invincible, I think they didn't even get 80 points, they got 75. And by the way, you can still be invincible and you can still be relegated. But those Arsenal's marks don't realize that. So I want us to do the invincible feat, and I also want us to do the quadruple feat just to shut down both United and Arsenal, and they'll have nothing. They'll have nothing to hold on to. I mean, I know it will be difficult going invincible and winning the quadruple and stuff, but let it with Haaland in this form and with Kevin De Bruyne are there, we'll surely give it a shot. We'll surely give it a big shot actually. With especially the defense with Akanji and Ake. If you really have good defense, why not win all of the trophies? We'll see how it goes, but the Copenhagen match will be a glimpse. It will be a glimpse of how Pep wants to approach all of these intense months. It will actually tell us a lot about Pep's thinking. And also, there's been no reports on and also there's been no reports on Kyle Walker's injury. Actually, that's another thing which I'm concerned about. There's been no talk on Rodri's injury as well. So I'll actually I'm actually a bit concerned about that, especially Walker's injury, because this season it just seems that Kyle Walker he's gone a bit on and off the boil. For example, he's not himself, and we need his Rolls Royce pace. Suman says coming soon. Hopefully, Suman. Hopefully, it's coming soon. Naresh says, I don't think invincible feat will happen. You can never say never, Naresh, with the invincible feat, because especially because of Haaland, he just seems to conjure goals out of nothing, out of thin air. He can get a goal, especially those scissor cut finishes. I do not know how he finishes with his leg in an almost horizontal manner like this, and then just putting it into the middle of the net. Haaland is very, very special. His finishing technique is very special. His finishing technique is not the ordinary finishing technique. It's something else. It has levels to it, and he and with KDB supplying him with Phil Foden finding a new home on the right hand side, anything is possible. I think you can even dare to aim beyond the stars with this team, and still, you can hope to achieve it. You can be confident of achieving it. Invincibles might not happen, quadruple might not happen, but the very thought that we think we can do it is in itself a big achievement for the team. I think it's in itself a big laurel on this team, I think. Suman says, how many goals Haaland scores if he's not injured this season? Apparently, Suman, according to the goal scoring rate, he's on his way to score 68 goals this season if he just continues at the same goal scoring rate, 68. But that is, again, with Erling Haaland, you can never say that those are ridiculous numbers and all of those things, because the guy himself is ridiculous, not just in terms of, see, if a player is just talented, you could still say that okay, the goal scoring numbers will come down and stuff. We have seen law of averages catches up, but with Haaland, the kind of personality he is, the kind of mentality he has, he's a ruthless hunter. He doesn't even if he misses a single chance, he just he just curses himself. That kind of a ruthless mentality can take you to places. So for once, I think he'll score above 40 goals this season for sure. maybe 50 if he doesn't stay injured, but I would put a figure in terms of 40 to 50 goals. Suman says in Premier League, what's the record for most goals in a season? I mean, in this new format, when the Premier League started in the 1990s or so, I think after 92, I think the record is with Mo Salah. The record is around 36 goals. I mean, round about that. But then, if in the history of in English football history, the record is, I think, with Alan Shearer, which is 40 goals. So 40 goals in a season. But then the seasons would be much more longer. But I think the record is 36 with Mo Salah and 40 with Alan Shearer, I think. And Haaland will comfortably beat that, I think. It's October and he's already had 14. By the end of October, I think he'll have 25, 26. And by the way, last season's Golden Boot winner got 23 goals. So you can actually imagine that Haaland will overtake last season's Golden Boot winner by the end of October. If he doesn't, if he doesn't, then it's a scary prospect for defenses, because all through the international break he'll be practicing finishing. So I just think 40 goals should be there. It's a reasonable thing, especially with Kevin De Bruyne. I mean, you look at that cross which Kevin De Bruyne is just giving to Erling Haaland. Yesterday, I think it's for a Haaland's second goal after that header from a corner. You see, Varane was there, Haaland was running through. No defender in the world can do anything about that cross. The cross just bends through an angle which defies the laws of physics and mathematics and trigonometry and whatever you want to. Mathematicians are, putting in a lawsuit that the cross should not be allowed. It deviates all of the laws that we have been studying. So when you have crosses like that, even if you're having a bad game, you can just put one in with De Bruyne's ability, and Haaland will just score that. And the finish was exceptional as well. The techniques are unconventional with Erling Haaland, and that will be the key. Defenders will not know. See, basically, defenders will have a thing, right? Okay, should I put him on his left foot or his right foot? How will he score? Will he go for an acrobatic kick, or how will he finish? Will he finish just from outside the box? But Erling Haaland seems to just, it doesn't matter how he finishes, he somehow finishes it. Football Kick says, guys, do you think we should we go for Hazard for left wing? I think he's not the same Hazard. Still, he can take City to the next level. Football Critics, the thing with Eden Hazard is, first of all, is injury prone, and second of all, the thing is he will not be able to offer you the defensive work rate. Yesterday, the game changing moment was, I mean, not Haaland, not Akanji, not Ake, not anyone. They were the game changers, but the biggest game changing moment was Grealish going into the midfield. Grealish counter press, joining in the counter press. Grealish swapping with Bernardo. Grealish running the length of the pitch. Could Eden Hazard do that? And the answer is actually, I don't think Hazard has that much of a work rate left in him. Hazard could be too much of a luxury. There's no place for luxury players here. There's place for players who do hard work, who work their backside off in this City team. And also another thing is, it goes against our transfer policy as well, bringing in Eden Hazard. Our transfer policy, especially since Pep has come, has been to find the next Eden Hazard, to find the next, for example, find the next Kevin De Bruyne, to find the next Kyle Walker. Those have been to find the next David Silva, to find the next Sergio Aguero. So those have been the lines we have been going through. So instead of Eden Hazard, I would be more satisfied if you, for example, went for a Leandro Trossard, who seems to be doing exceptionally well for Brighton, or maybe a Daniel Podence as well. These two players for me, especially in the Premier League, are the ones who come close to Eden Hazard in terms of the kind of dribbling ability, and these two offer you good work rate as well. Especially Trossard for me, because he has played in the sort of Pep Guardiola system under Graham Potter, and is very good in terms of defensive work rate and dribbling and all. Trossard is someone, if I want, I'll bring on for the left wing. Vinay says left wing Leao. But Vinay, isn't Rafael Leao a right winger? I might be mistaken here, but I think Rafael Leao is a right winger. Again, the positions don't matter for Pep Guardiola. He can turn you into a striker, a left winger, a right winger. anything actually. So actually think Rafael Leao would just make this team invincible, I would say, because the pace of Rafael Leao, the pace of Erling Haaland, that would just be too much to deal with. But but again, the problem is if you play Foden, Haaland, and Rafinha, the problem again is who's the tempo controller of the three. So it will be a basketball game. I know with those three in the front, you can outscore any team. But again, that's not how Pep would want to play. Want his team to play, right? Pep would want us to control the tempo of the game. Pep would want us to dictate the style of play. Tempo. I think whatever lineup you will see this season, you will see that there is at least one tempo controller in the front three. It could be, for example, Foden, Haaland, Mahrez, or Pulis, Haaland, Foden, or Alvarez, Haaland, Mahrez, something like that. We will not see Grealish and Mahrez play together because they only control the tempo of the game and do nothing else. The game just becomes slow, but we will see one of those two play start each game for sure. I think the rotation will be between Grealish and Mahrez. So because Pep needs a tempo controller there, and the rotation will be between Foden and Alvarez. Maybe you could say Haaland, Alvarez, but maybe Haaland, Foden, Alvarez, one will get rest and two will play out of those three. It will be something on those lines, but Mahrez and Grealish are gonna get a game at least one of them for sure. Football critics, we have read that football critics are still only team who can stop City's Spurs. With Spurs again, we have seen. I mean, Arsenal in a way. The interesting thing is what a couple of football pundits are talking about. They're actually, they're actually not happy that Arsenal is at the top of the league because they're like, well, Arsenal is at the top of the league, but what is Arsenal? Arsenal is a derivative of City. That's it. Who has made Arsenal? Mikel Arteta, Zinchenko, and Gabriel Jesus. It is the impact of these three personnel that has actually made Arsenal who they are. So in a way, Arsenal is a derivative of City, and that's it. So that's that's very cool. That's very interesting the way they were talking about Arsenal. I mean, Spurs is again interesting. Last time we lost against Spurs, Son. I mean, there are a few differences from the last time we lost against Spurs, and now see Son is not in very good form. And the major thing for me is the pace of our back line. Both Akanji and Ake have pace. Last time, who were playing? Diaz and Laporte were playing maybe, and both of them didn't have pace. And when you have a Son, Kulusevski, a Richarlison playing on the wings, and a Harry Kane dropping back and providing them service, you would want fast runners to track them. And we were not able to do it. Walker was just overwhelmed. It was a 1v1, 1v2 versus Walker. But now we have Akanji, we have Ake as well. So it's almost we have three pacey centre backs. Cancelo is also decent in pace. So you literally have all four of our back line, which is pacey, and Spurs. I mean, it will be the same template of what happened against Manchester United. But the one thing I want Pep to avoid is again play Gundogan instead of Rodri, thinking that it worked against United, it will work now. That could be a mistake, but we do not know Pep. But I'm actually not worried about Spurs. But this it's a bit strange, but maybe I'm worried about one or two teams down the table actually in terms of, for example, in terms of your Brentford, for example, because not because they defeated our United 4-0, but Brentford, for me, they take the game to us. They like to land blow to blow on a face. So whenever we have played such teams, Brighton, for example, so Brighton, Brentford, I think I'm much more a bit concerned about those two teams rather than your Spurs and someone in the top six. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when we play them. But one thing is, our defense looks secure in Akanji, and again, that is a confident element here. Vinay says there were strong links of Rafinha out of City. What will happen if he joins us in January? I mean, if there are injury problems and Pap is and forced to go, then maybe I think he'll go for Liao. But the big problem is transfer fee. Milan want more than 100 million euros or something for his transfer fee, and I don't see us spending. I know we have the net spend in our favor and stuff, but I actually don't see us spending. We have already spent 100 million on Grealish, and I don't see us spending 100 million on Rafael Leao when Pep knows that maybe he'll have to spend cash to replace. I mean, to bring in someone as a successor to Kyle Walker if Rico Lewis doesn't work out. So Pep knows that funds are needed next summer, and another thing is Jude Bellingham. There are links with Jude Bellingham, and maybe, and you know what the reports are stating? The reports are stating that Erling Haaland has personally spoken to Jude Bellingham in terms of getting him to Man City, and City are not officially in the race, but City are fairly, I would not say confident, but they think that there's a good chance that Jude Bellingham could actually join them. So I actually think that there's a fee. The reports are you have to pay 83 million pounds for Jude Bellingham upfront, or 132 million pounds if you pay in installments or something like that. So I think Pep and City will keep some cash in reserves for Jude Bellingham, and that could be the reason why we don't go for Rafael Leao actually. So summer transfer window will be interesting because it will be dictated a lot by injuries more than anything else. Anyway, guys, it's been a wonderful interaction. Thank you so much for all of those comments. It's been wonderful chatting with you all. Thank you so much for coming on again. And I hope you guys have enjoyed the show. If you have enjoyed the show, please click on the like button and the bell icon so that you get notifications whenever I come up with new videos. And again, thank you guys. See you and take care.